in Tasmania to generate power. It's around 230, 250 grams of carbon for every unit of energy that we use.
Going once, going twice, sold. You're listening to The Property Pod.
All right, guys, welcome back to The Property Pod, your weekly engagement into real estate here in the Hobart Marketplace. I'm your host, Aaron Horn, and I'm joined by only one of the team members today, John McGregor.
Oh, everyone, it's tragic.
It's all right, mate. It's all right. We don't have our captain, Patrick Berry. He's actually off in Sydney with his son. He was competing in the National BMX trials or something like that across the weekend. We should have known.
Yeah. But did you see that photo he sent back where the kid just looked like he did a straight up Street Fighter kick to the guy's neck?
I did see that, yeah. So they were at this national event. They normally do events down here in Hobart. But yeah, this was his first national, and that photo was like, it looked like a full
epic.
Mortal Kombat move.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, so your son does this every weekend? He's like, oh, yeah, he's really good.
Yeah. Well, hats off to those young kids, though, because he said they all just got straight back on the bike and kept racing.
Most definitely. So, yeah, so Pat's away. It's actually unfortunate that he's away today. I think he'd really be into today's topic and today's guest. He's kind of really trying to push that environmental approach here at the office and going paperless and going carbon-free and all of that stuff.
As much as you can.
Yeah.
But even then, there's always a limitation on what you can research yourself. So it's always, being able to find an expert to bring in and go, well, did you know that this could happen?
Yes, indeed. So today we've brought in an expert, someone that we've known for years. We're actually crossing off as we were having coffees before how we knew each other, and it turns out me and the guest lived on the same street at some stage. And that was news to me today. So yeah,
I'm pretty pumped because we've got our old mate of ours, Tom Green from Engunity Power Solutions.
Thanks for having me, gentlemen.
Yeah, welcome.
Not a problem, my friend. Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for coming in on a bright early morning. It's really good to see you.
A beautiful drive down from the north of the state this morning. So
I did want to check. Did you drive this morning, or did you?
I did.
So what time were you up?
That's it.
What time were you up to come?
Out of bed at about 10 to 5 this morning.
Jesus. We told you we're not that professional. We could have done this way later in the day.
Look, it's good. Good excuse to get out of bed.
Excellent.
Well, I think sometimes doing these, though, first thing's good because your mind's not completely focused during work. It's hard to sort of shift gears between starting something, shifting gears, and then back into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's jump straight into your business. You're a startup. You've kind of just got off the ground in January, you were saying. Can you give us some scope on what you're doing out there?
Yeah, look, fundamentally, I guess I'm an electrician by trade, electrical contractor, also with an engineering degree. So I guess we're a little bit hybrid in what we do and how we do things. So I guess the premise of our business is, I guess, finding what we like to call a future-proof solution through energy efficiency and I guess the added benefits of that. Obviously, the bottom line. And things become cheaper. But
absolutely.
Every unit of energy that we use obviously produces carbon. So there's that environmental impact that we're trying to offset through, I guess, the technologies and the implementation of different strategies.
Yeah, most definitely. So just jumping from kind of, I was an electrician and then I got an engineering degree. Kind of, it's a very interesting kind of leap.
The stereotype will be you either choose a trade or higher education in many senses, but then you've integrated both.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's serious amount of work there, mate.
A little bit of a hybrid approach to, I guess, my education in that moved away to Western Australia, moving into year 11 and 12.
Yep.
Finished year 11 in WA and then shipped back to Tassie. The education system is convoluted, as we all probably know, and I sort of missed the boat, would have to have done year 11 again, blah, blah, blah. So I got a trade.
Yep.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And loved it, and it was great, but wanted to continue to push and sort of was opened up to an opportunity to continue studying and, took it.
So how did you, what was the genesis or the thing that got you inspired to pursue engineering then?
It was basically the opportunity presented itself.
Oh, right.
Nothing more.
Oh.
I, to be honest, I didn't want to be an engineer. I actually looked at what was involved in the engineering space and was just like, nah, not for me.
Yeah, fair enough.
Opportunity opened up and I took it with both hands and then I've sort of found what I believe to be my little niche in the market. So
how did that come about? Because where did your training as an electrician start? Was that in the residential space, the commercial space? Where did you spend most of your time there?
Yeah, in the commercial space.
Yep.
Working in the commercial space. And then I actually went back to Western Australia and spent a bit of time.
You're in the mines, weren't you?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, right. Yep.
and then came back and was in sort of the utility space down here, and that's where the opportunity in the engineering and I guess my segue into that space, and that's where I sort of left that, went into a sales role.
Yeah,
And
okay.
then is where I've sort of found myself where I am, I guess, today. So
Yeah.
It's amazing. We're only talking about this kind of before we started, but you were saying, how'd you get into this podcasting and media and all this
It
stuff?
just keeps happening.
I knew Tom when we were I was studying at uni and you were working in the halls doing some of the electrical work.
I was doing something.
You were working,
But yeah,
one way or the other.
I was training to be a teacher. You were working there. We were across. Do you remember the old Red Wine Wednesdays we used to have back in the day?
I do remember the Red Wine Wednesdays.
I don't remember what happened after them, but they were a lot of fun while we were doing them. But yeah, so we were just discussing before, like, how did you fall into this? And it's kind of one of those experiences where I'd been to WA and did some teaching and come back and was like, I'm a bit disheartened by the whole experience. I'd love to try something else. And yeah, just kind of opportunity arose. So it sounds really similar to your story in that you've kind of gone through all these adventures. You were saying I've had lots of random jobs, but it sounds like you've crossed many paths yourself, my friend.
Yeah, you could probably say that.
Where then? So you've done your Spark. You've moved into your engineering field. Obviously, being able to specialise in this energy saving space.
Yes.
How did that start to translate into your experience with your work, and then how has that evolved then into creating your consultancy business?
Yeah, okay. So what it came down to initially was power quality. So people think you plug in a computer into a PowerPoint and the screen works, 240 volts, magic, away we go.
Yep.
There's actually, I guess, little pieces that make up all of that power system. And the quality of power obviously is efficiency.
Yep.
And that was sort of where it all stemmed from, was the better the quality power, the more efficient everything is. It comes down to the more efficient that the generator from, let's say, Hydro Tasmania, and then the smaller the wires and the poles need to be for Transend or Tas Networks now to move that power from point A to point B and all the way along the line. So there's the sustainability, I guess, in that. That then moved down into, I guess, looking at a helicopter 10,000 feet, coming down. And then it comes down to, well, things are only as efficient as the things that you actually plug into that PowerPoint. So there's better ways that we can actually do things that, I guess, fall all the way down the line of that sustainability. And I use sustainability in inverted commas because I really don't like the word.
Yeah. Why is that?
I just don't think that anything that we do is fundamentally sustainable. If you boil down the word sustainability, it is being able to sustain something or maintain something forever and a day. And there is nothing that we do as human beings that is sustainable.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. So you think like even sometimes the definition of the word is not useful.
I think the definition's perfect, but I just think everything that we do is not sustainable.
Oh, fair
and
enough.
I really like the word future-proof because that means that it's adaptable as things change. It can adapt and grow with it. So that's sort of the term that we like to coin, I guess, with what we do. It's future-proofing. It's not sustainable.
Well, I personally, I'm not sure about you, mate, but I like the word adaptable because it enables you to change. You can be flexible. And even something as simple as the idea of future-proofing. This is an odd analogy, but it's just something I can relate to, is that I ended up getting a series of music equipment because I wanted to build a music room. But I thought, well, I could just get a couple of, stock standard guitars or whatever. But in the end, I went, you know what? I've worked hard. I'm going to get the stuff that I really, really want because now with the music, the equipment I have, that'll last me for 40 years.
100%. And if you look at then the total cost of ownership over the life of your asset, you've actually offset a whole heap at the front end by being, I guess, somewhat intelligent in the decisions that you made.
Yes, exactly.
And it's exactly the same with any piece of infrastructure, any appliance or whatever that we're going to implement into our everyday living or our workplace or whatever that is, that if you actually sit down, do the numbers, and have a look fundamentally at what it is that you want to do now and what it is that you're actually going to try and do in the future, there's a lot to be saved, I guess, from making good decisions at the front end.
Yeah, this is so interesting because at the moment I'm looking to design just a simple unit at the back of a property that I have. And I think one of the reasons why I've delayed so much is that I want to do it a little bit differently because it seems to me that, say, residential homes in Australia haven't changed at all for 100 years. How is it then that you see is it frustrating sometimes to see both in the commercial space and the residential space that with the knowledge that you've gained now that it's still not evolving?
So, look, if you look at that, I guess at base level, you look at, let's say, a builder or a home renovator going in to renovate a home and they do something, they pull a floor up or they, pull a wall down or something and it's wrong. and you don't know it's wrong because there's plaster on a wall and something's been built incorrectly, or it just doesn't allow that person to do what they wanted to do.
Yep.
And that's, I guess, really at a high level, but looking at that, not making decisions that aren't future-proof.
Sure.
Yeah, kind of a patch for the moment and be like, I'll resolve that way down, or I'll never resolve that.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's not my problem now.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And those decisions are what we're trying to educate, I guess, in the space that we play in.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yep. Yep. So you're really more than anything, you're getting your client to think further ahead.
Absolutely. And we're looking to, I guess, bridge that gap so that we can deal directly with a property manager.
Yep.
We can deal directly with a consulting engineer, bring all of that information together so that, I guess, everyone's got their point of view heard to a degree.
Well, what's so interesting is so we've all got different degrees of expertise. Well, then that's why someone like yourself is so useful in a project, because you can connect all the dots to basically enable a company or an individual to, complete their vision.
Yeah, and to look at that again, I guess it's easy to put the blinkers on and be really caught up in, I guess, what your job is in that communication channel, I guess. And, the tradie might see something that's just going to benefit him a little bit, so he wants to push that. You as the homeowner might want to push something else, you know what I mean? And it's really hard to, I guess, sell what it is that you want out of it as well and sort of meet that middle ground.
Yeah, exactly. You specifically have had the experience through commercial space, and arguably you could say like that's where you see the biggest measurable difference to businesses' bottom lines, because you're working at giant levels of scale, right?
Absolutely.
But like in the business like we have here, it's still a relatively large office, but we're very passionate about trying to do offsetting and, as you pointed out, I can see you boys have got the LED lights in there, little different degrees. How is it that you can, what is it that people in homes or individuals can start to look for and search for when they're trying to pursue this energy efficiency direction? Yeah,
so I guess what's important to boil it down to is that what we're doing when we're using energy. So I guess you look at your power bill and it's made up of units, right? And they're called kilowatt hours. So that's the unit you pay for. Kilowatt hour in Tasmania is around 25 cents per unit.
Right.
All right. So every kilowatt hour that's produced, and this is dependent on which way Basslink operates. So we import power or we export power. In Tasmania, to generate power, it's around 230, 250 grams of carbon for every unit of energy that we use.
Okay. Every unit of energy, every kilowatt.
So if we boil that down again, an average home uses around 7,000 kilowatt hours of power per year.
Okay.
Yep.
7,000 times 230, 250 grams, we've got hundreds and thousands of kilograms.
Yeah.
So if everybody at the home level can be a little bit better in the decisions that they make and how they use energy, hey, guess what? There's a benefit to your bottom line, but there's a benefit to the environment, and you know what I mean? And that's becoming responsible. That's future-proofing our decisions.
Yeah.
The reason that we're fundamentally focused at the moment on the commercial and industrial space is because that we can make a big difference really, really easily.
Yes.
So we're doing a lot of projects at the moment based on, I guess, motor efficiency, electric motors.
Yep.
So in Australia, 294 terawatt hours are used a year. Of that, around 45% is directly attributed to electric motors.
Wow.
That's enough energy to power about 119 million homes.
Wow.
Bloody hell.
In Australia, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure it's around 9.5 million dwellings. So there you go. There's some numbers.
So
if we can make the electric motors a little bit more efficient,
Yep.
45% of all the energy used in Australia, a little bit more efficient, that's probably going to be enough energy to power every home in Australia.
Just by a small change of the degree.
And then there's the carbon offset. In Victoria, it's about 1.2 kilograms of carbon per kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
Because of the coal and that sort of stuff. We're talking significant numbers here.
Yeah, so it's amazing that you can kind of, just think just like a tiny adjustment through kind of engineering prowess to a motor and trying to get that just that little bit more efficient is kind of attainable to reach such a big difference across the country.
Absolutely.
Is that something that you're pushing to, like, obviously we're here in Tasmania, but is that something that, like, if you can get the technology sorted here, you can then expand that to a nationwide kind of approach?
Yeah, absolutely. Luckily enough that a lot of the conversations that we're having here in Tassie are involved with sort of national and multinational businesses as well.
Yep.
And obviously everybody's signing charters now and things for that sustainability, inverted commas,
Yeah,
environmental
They're all-
impact and
they're
all
all-
those sorts of things. So if we can help at some level, hopefully that conversation continues on to, some of those big decision makers in big boardrooms that can really, impact change.
Well, it's all well and good to sign a piece of paper, isn't it? But then in the end, like, what are you going to do about it?
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
I guess you don't know what you don't know.
Yep.
Yeah.
We need to do something, but what can we do?
Yep.
And I guess at the home level, that boils down to, I guess, spending the time to educate yourself. So things like electric panel heaters and things on the wall, what you get there is a 1-to-1 ratio. So for every kilowatt of power you put in to that heater, you get 1 kilowatt of heating on the other end of that, okay?
Yes. Yep.
There's obviously a lot of talk and things about, reverse cycle air conditioning and things being, the very efficient, mode of heating and cooling a home or a business and things like that. So you're looking at about a ratio of 3.6, 3.7 to 1. So 1 kilowatt in to 3.6 or 3.7 kilowatts of heating out.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, if we're talking about kilowatt hours, you're putting in 1 kilowatt hour for the hour to get 3.6 kilowatts of heat out.
Yep.
230 grams. Go the other way, and we put an electric heater to get the same heat. Well, that's 230 grams. Yeah, so we're getting 1 kilogram of carbon out the other end for the same result.
The exact same result.
Yeah, absolutely. And even like you break it down to a couple of elements. Like no one really gets if you're at the roulette table and you're putting $100, you're risking $100 to get $100 back. Like you just wouldn't take that bet, would you?
It's not a good bet.
Yeah, and it's the thing. People get excited in investing as well. It's like if you've got your savings account, your cash in the bank, and they're paying you just nothing in interest. We're like, well, where's the gains? But I guess
some Dogecoin, weren't we?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's amazing how passionate my cousin is about that. But
I don't even get it.
I'm not quite sure he does either. But so I know, like even just take our Residential Tenancy Act for example, and at different levels around the world they have different levels of scale, but. And it's very hard to legislate against this as far as I'm concerned. So I'm not going to be advocating that you would write into law this is what you need to have. However, it would state that you have to provide some form of heating. Like that's about it, And then, so the minimum would be throwing in a panel heater. And I know at our old place, because Dad, it was really bad for him with reverse cycle air conditions. It wasn't comfortable, so we had to have all these panel heaters everywhere. And my God, the power bill was ridiculously expensive, and the house was still pretty much always cold. So it was just a terrible solution, right? And if we were to put in the heat pump still, I don't even know if that still would have been obviously would have been at least 3 times better, given what you said.
Yeah, well, it's actually better than that because the technology inside equipment like that, it's called inverter technology. So what happens within a panel heater is you've got it set on the thermostat to, let's say, 24 degrees, okay?
Yep.
So the panel heater's on, bang, it's on. Full noise, there's no control, it's on, it approaches that set point, it hits that set point, but it's always going to overshoot. Right? So you're probably going to get to 26 degrees.
Oh, so
and then it turns off.
Yep.
Full noise off. And it ramps back down to 21 degrees. And guess what? It's on again. Full noise, bang. All the way back up, overshoots again, and then it turns off, right? So it's all energy all the time. With a heat pump, what happens, it's got an inverter. All right? So what that means is that the motor speed and the compressor speed can ramp up and ramp down. So as you start approaching that set point, it slows itself down. So
Okay.
it's not using that 1 kilowatt anymore. It might be using 0.6 of a kilowatt because it's slowed itself right down and just producing enough to hit that set point, and then it ramps itself back off again. So it's not turning on and turning off and turning on and turning off. So they're actually, when I say it's 3.6 to 1, by the time that inverter does its thing, it's probably
way more
1 to 1.
efficient. Yep.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. So in the end, it's just a fundamentally better way to heat your home.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I guess just going from there, that's kind of one of those misconceptions that people have out there of say, I'll go buy the $40 panel heater rather than getting the big heat pump installed. What kind of other misconceptions are out there around the household that you could just reel off for us?
Insulation and double glazing of windows.
Yep.
Obviously, heat loss is a huge thing, and that's heat coming in or heat going out, or cool air coming in and out, all those things, right? So if you fundamentally insulate correctly, that means you need less energy to heat it to a comfortable
reasonable
and
heat.
maintain it.
Yep.
So again, that heat pump inverter is ramping up and down, but it's doing hardly any work because once it's warm, it's warm. Once it's cool, it's cool. And it stays there. So those investments, as much as on face value you're thinking, oh, my Lord, that's expensive, if you really boil that down and you could, I guess, the hard bit is people being able to map that data and going, this is what you're going to save. No one's willing to actually, no one is actually going to, excuse my friend, put their balls on the line and go, that's it, that's the number. And I think that's one of the differences with our business is that when we go in and talk to people, what we're doing is we're going, this is your return on investment. This is what you're going to save. This is the carbon that you are going to offset. And we always make sure that's conservative as well, because there's nothing worse than having that conversation and going, hey, look at this. And then all of a sudden, you know, in 12 months' time, they're going, hey, mate.
You're not even close to what you promised.
And so that's one of the big things. And I think that's that education is that a lot of people are looking at us when we're, you know, approaching that and going, all right, where's the steak knives, mate? You know, this is a sales pitch. And that's the hard thing to actually twist that and shift that mentality, I guess, to this is real.
Is this kind of like the solar panels that you kind of get the phone calls about and you kind of like it can't be all rainbows and sunshine like you're promising, and you want heaps of sunshine for the solar panels, but like I'd love to be like investing in that, but it just seems to be this kind of airy-fairy price.
Are you going to get your return on your investment?
Yeah.
Well, there's that. Yeah. I'm going to get in trouble if people that I know listen to this, because this conversation comes up with me fairly regularly about solar, and I end up bashing the solar industry, and I don't mean to, because I think fundamentally what it is fantastic. I think how it's actually implemented and how it's marketed now, because that's all it is now, it's a big marketing machine, is really wrong. In that, in Tassie, I guess in summer we've got what they call solar producing hours with the sun's at the right height and all this sort of stuff for the solar panels to be the most efficient they can be. And I think we get about 4.5 solar producing hours in summer. Right?
A day.
So it's going to produce all those other times that the sun's up as well, just not as efficiently, right? So what happens is people go, I'm going to put solar on the roof, right? And there's a mentality shift there that I've got solar, so I can basically do what I want. Well, the idea with solar is that it works when the sun shines. At the moment, obviously with battery pricing and things like that, they're not being implemented as quickly, I guess, as we would like, because the return on investment just isn't there. But if you've got solar on your roof, guess when the sun shines? It's when we're out at the park or we're at work or we're doing the things that you have to do as an adult. So you don't get to actually use the benefit of the solar anyway. When should the dishwasher run? Guess what? Midday when the sun's high. When should the washing machine and the dryer go on? Guess what? Midday. You know, hot water cylinders, one of the biggest consumers of energy in the house, because all you're doing is heating a body of water that you may or may not use. And guess when that comes on? It still comes on when the sun's not shining.
For sure.
So there's, you know, and then people put solar panels on and they go, I can do what I want now.
Free reign.
But I guarantee you they come home and the dryer's on at 6 o'clock at night and all these things, and it's just, it doesn't work. If used correctly, solar panels are amazing.
Yes.
You know, if you've got a swimming pool and you can, you know, run your pumps and put all timers and things in, but no one's going to go to that level.
But again, I guess that's part of that education thing where kind of someone like yourself can come in and say, like, you know, this is the best time to be doing it. If you want to put in a system where we have timers running all this stuff, we can make that work. I imagine that's something that's
absolutely. And the other thing is people think, what I'll do is I'll just put solar panels on the roof and I'm doing a great job. But that's trying to mop up a bucket of milk that's been kicked over. Let's not kick the bucket of milk over. Let's fix all those things at the ground level first. Let's replace all your lighting with LED. Let's find an efficient way to heat hot water, whether that's heat pump or, you know, whatever that might be, solar, whatever. You know, let's replace some of those inefficient appliances that we've got within the home with efficient. Let's insulate, and now let's put solar on once everything's offset, so that when the sun's not shining, we're still actually getting benefit. And what you'll find is, again, I haven't really done the math, I've done some at a commercial and industrial level, is that if you fix those fundamental things that are working for you all the time, even when the sun's not shining, and then put solar, your return on investment's actually smaller.
Well, it's like, why are you cold? Well, you're sitting there naked on the couch, mate. Maybe just put a jumper on first before you turn the heater on.
That's exactly right.
You know?
And what I do at home, John, is my prerogative, mate.
That's right. Harking back to me thinking about then, you know, the unit that I want to build is, so the message to me might be, look, don't think of it just slap on solar. It says, Johnny, if you really want to have an energy efficient, like, start at your foundations.
Absolutely.
And work your way through. And I suppose then that's where we search out someone like yourself to help design that connect all of it together.
Absolutely.
To ensure that they're all working in tandem and actually assisting, right through the lights, right through to the different switches, right to the switching on and off, right to the end once you get to the exterior of the house, and then what more can you add?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And do you see much of a shift in that space, obviously in the property game, that people, when they're walking into an open home, they're looking at these things?
Specifically in Tassie, I think that's going to happen a lot more. It seems to me, and I can only say because I don't know too much about it myself, is that most people don't know what they're even looking for. So they know anecdotally, kind of like when someone walks into a car yard and they kick the tyre. Why are you kicking the tyre, mate? It's like, I don't know. I've seen someone do it once before. So people know a little bit to ask questions and spend money. However, I don't think it's through knowledge of actually converting it to the end goal, which is obviously reducing your power costs. So I know it's a long-winded answer, but I just don't think – I think people want to, but they don't know how to is the biggest challenge.
And one of the other things as well that I guess is tough is that I guess the rise of the home renovator and things like that, you know, the block and, all of these things, everyone wants to have a crack and do things, and they do things as best as they probably can. Are they making good decisions? Probably not.
Yeah.
Again, I've seen somebody do this, so that, that's how it must be done, or whatever that might be. Now, there's a reason that people are specialists in certain areas.
Absolutely. Well, actually, going back to the gentleman I was referring to before, I think the example that he gave was, say you look at properties in Germany or different countries that have degrees of extreme ends, so hot and then extreme cold.
Launceston.
Well, there you go. Well, so they're designed to make sure that the house can retain heat at levels of extreme. You said the challenge is that with Australia, we trying to, as if it's always the same, and so they're not really pushing the design to allow I suppose to retain that heat. And one of my best mates, he helped me with he'll be helping me with the build, but he's really passionate about this stuff. So when he built a massive house in Claremont, I have no idea what he did, but obviously there's huge windows on the side. There's solar orientation. There's the concrete through the middle and the bottom, so that once that gets to a level degree, you can basically switch off the heaters for days and days because it's retained that level of heat. So
absolutely,
the house is phenomenally comfortable. It's massive open spaces. And you're like, how the hell is this even working? It's because you just spent all that time and effort to design it well
at that front end.
Yeah, exactly right.
Future-proofing what you're trying to do.
And I think it's because obviously that's what he's passionate about. He can do the work, but I'm 99% sure he spoke with people like yourself as well to help do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. And there's a reason that there is a shift in this space as well. Obviously, the Building Code of Australia mandates certain aspects of what has to happen with, how many watts you can have of lighting and heating per square metre and all this sort of thing. But again, with the rise of the home renovator, a lot of that's lost because at the end of the day, there's no one really checking
over the stuff. Yeah, definitely.
And look, in the end, I'll speak for myself too, is that I'll jump on Pinterest and go, I want that kitchen. I want that bathroom. Like I don't really care. It's just like, it's just so as much as I would say, there's passion, but in the moment you're like, screw it, but does it look like that?
Yeah. And the consumer's much the same.
Yeah.
You walk in and, I don't know, does the kitchen sell the house? Does the bathroom sell the house? Whatever that is. But, if it's beautiful, I guarantee, I know when we bought our place, we walked in and my wife just said, we're buying this.
Yep.
We're in the hallway.
Yeah. You bought a hallway and the house came with it, as an effort. Yeah.
100%, So, yeah.
And I guess that harks back to your question, is that it's sort of that we'd like to think that we're moving this positive energy direction, but our emotions take over. And that's how we buy it. Like we buy on that emotion, justify with logic later. So there'd be a very small percentage of people that are really, targeting and looking for a high degree of energy efficiency. Becomes a nice bonus at the end of the game. But I suppose what I would like to do and hope that I do personally when it comes to then maybe in my future decisions, especially with the build, is like, well, maybe this could be part of a big rock that comes into the design and not just my flashy looking kitchen.
And does it come into the marketing as well when we're selling property?
I think lots of the properties that we probably work with in our local market here are kind of the older build and you're kind of moving on old homes. But I imagine if you were selling lots of new homes, you'd get really versed in kind of understanding those extra features and those extra things that have been thought about and put into those homes, and it definitely would become part of the marketing package of being kind of, the double glazed glass that leads you out onto the deck will maintain the heat that's been filtered through your big concrete floored, etc.
However,
that's just
exactly
riffing. Yeah. I think, boys, we've come to a point where we've we've gone way beyond our time.
Yep, that's fine.
I knew having the two of you in here that I probably wouldn't get a word in and that you guys could have talked till the cows come home. You could have done a 4-hour Joe Rogan kind of episode here, I imagine. I think there's plenty of scope to talk about, but it's been really cool to join the dots and have you in, Tom. Anyone out there that would like to look further into your business, where can they find you?
Yeah, our website's up and running. So if you Google Engunity Power Solutions, you'll find us there. Contact details and stuff are on the web as well.
Yep.
And happy just to have the conversation. Education's key. So we're pretty passionate about what we're doing.
Yep.
And there's lots of little things that you can implement that, I guess end up with a big result at the end. So
yeah, without doubt, we can definitely feel the passion. We can feel that. I think one key takeaway is just education is something that really we need to think about. Like we've kind of learnt heaps just this morning. It's kind of I can't wait to go back and listen to all the math and just be like, holy moly, like
This actually makes a difference.
yeah. I used to think this guy could just lift really heavy weights, but
well and truly retired.
I did see something about your dad bod from for anyone out there, Tom. Was it world record level powerlifting?
Yeah, it was, ashamedly.
It was mighty impressive, my friend.
Bloody hell.
Thank you so much for coming in. It's been a hoot.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, you're always welcome back. We'd love to have you on again, and we'll just sign it off.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, gentlemen.
Not a
next
problem. Excellent. See ya.